Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jerry Sansing. This is Sunday, May the 31st, 2015, and I'm back with another edition of the South Texas News and Reviews. Had some interesting comments over the last couple of weeks, so continue sending those in to gsansing@gmail.com. And it's also available on YouTube. Just go put in Gerald Sansing, and you can bring up the current and old editions of the South Texas News and Reviews. We do have a change in the time starting on June the 7th. That's this week, essentially, coming up. And we're going to be at 9 o'clock until 10 o'clock Monday evenings, and then on Thursday, at 3 to 4 in the afternoon. So watch for the new times starting June the 7th, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're recording, lights are on. I'm going to go take my seat, and we've got several items to discuss today of, I think, great importance to you taxpayers out there that support Del Mar College with your tax money. The state has cut back tremendously over the years on the amount of money that they put into the running of Del Mar College. It's around $80–90 million enterprise per year. And we've got some problems over there that I think the taxpayers need to know about. And since I'm very well associated with the Corpus Christi Taxpayers Association. Now, one thing that's cropped up, and I'm going to show a 2-minute clip of some trash that's been thrown out. I guess I'd consider it common trash, but let me just back up and indicate that for years I've had some friends of mine that teach in the Buddy Venters building, plus some other friends over there that are in the informational technology program department and so forth, and various types of different classes taught. And those people have been battling respiratory problems for quite some time. So all I can tell you fine folks is that when people started telling me that they had asthma problems and allergic reactions and respiratory problems, I said, well, I may be able to help you out. I've done this before at Del Mar College, so I went over and I tested that building and looked around, and it was horrific, folks. The air conditioning ductwork was full of mold. Every time the thing would kick on, it would blow some more stuff out on the desktops and computers and floor and so forth of the building over there, and people had to breathe that stuff. Now, I don't know that many people believe that you have very small particles in the air that can do you a lot of harm. Fungal spores are such, but when you've got growth so thick that you've got black spots, particulate matter, clumps of it blowing out of the air conditioning system onto desks and into people's chairs and on the floor and the carpet and stuff, there is a problem there. Now, I've had a hard time over the past with the administrators accepting the fact that I do know what I'm talking about. So I've given you my background before. I'll do it again in just a minute and tell you how I can support the fact that I know about microorganisms. I know specifically about bacterial toxins. I know even more specifically about fungal toxins. Those are the mold toxins and these toxic molds that everybody's still afraid of these days. But Del Mar College administration doesn't seem to be real concerned about doing anything about it. And when they did, I don't know where they hired these people that are going in and ripping out the air conditioning ducts as students from the collegiate high school are running around on the 3rd floor of that building. We have employees galore over there. We've got other college students, Del Mar College students, and I cannot believe that people are that ignorant of the fact that you don't do things like that. Okay? And then I'll talk about the coordinating architect over there. I'm not going to name names, but I've had dealings with that individual before over mold issues in other buildings many years ago. And he doesn't have any respect for my opinions either, okay, or my professional view of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and have the videographer here It's 53 minutes into this, or I got 53 minutes left. It's 5 minutes into it actually. And I left room for a 2-minute clip. And what I did was I went over and filmed a big dumpster that was full of uncovered and uncontained air conditioning ducts and some other trash, both the hard versions, the square and rectangular fiberboard, but also the flex duct as they call it. And they just dumped it out in there without any protection for the public whatsoever. So if go ahead and watch this 2-minute clip, and I'll just start it right now and then be right back with you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm in the wind. I don't know how much wind sound I've got here, but this is not any way that you remediate a building. It's got massive mold problems in it. I'm at Del Mar College, and this is the Buddy Venner's business building where they've had problems with this. You don't just start yanking out contaminated air ducts and so forth and putting them in a dumpster and not bringing them out in plastic bags and disposing of this stuff properly. I don't know if you can see how nasty that is, but I've been on this crowd for a long time at Del Mar College. They don't think I know anything about toxic molds or mold remediation or anything else. I've been doing it for 40 some odd years. But I just wanted to document that this is what they're doing. This is outside in a dumpster, blowing stuff all over the place, and I can imagine what's blowing around in that building. And they've already got people that are sick over here. So just wanted to document it for you, let you know where your tax money goes. And this is infuriating to me. It really is. I can't say anything less than that. So if you want to see a real mess, this is it in your dumpster over at Del Mar College. So I'm going to sign off, and I'll talk to you later. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to try this one more time just in case the first one didn't take. This is the air conditioning ducts coming out of the Buddy Venner's building, which is right there. And you can see that it looks pretty nasty inside. And this is the result of somebody blowing the whistle on them as far as having mold all over the place and bad air, but and a lot of sick people. But nobody listens to me, and I think this is probably the second go around as far as filming this dumpster. But this is what they do. They don't contain it. They just rip it out. They don't contain the rooms. I couldn't see any air scrubbers or whatever in there, so let's just contaminate everybody and then go stick it in a dumpster out here. Give you the further report with this show. Bye. So I'm back. Okay, the clip should have been inserted in here. Now what that shows is an awful lot of disregard for the finer arts of remediation of mold-infested air conditioning ducts and buildings, folks. Now I've got a bunch of still pictures that I had received by someone as an intermediate, but some of the parents of those collegiate high school students up there are pretty upset when the kids come home and tell them that they're sneezing and coughing and that they've got ductwork stored all over the place. They've got big piles of trash, particulate matter that's come out of those air conditioning ducts, because what they did was once they clipped them out of the ceilings, they just go ahead and threw them on the floor, and all that stuff shakes out. Then without containing those and without covering the floors completely to keep the stuff out of the carpeting, and it'll get down in there, and it takes some real cleaning, folks, deep cleaning to get rid of that stuff. So it still poses a hazard. Then what they did is they march it down the hall on carts, stick it on an elevator. The elevator's got that trash all on the floors in there, and then they take it out and dump it into a dumpster that's out blowing at 20, 30 mile an hour winds all over the neighborhoods. Now, folks, let me tell you what, that is not the way to remediate a building when you've got mold and so forth growing just wildly and rampantly in your air conditioning ducts. Okay? So like I say, I don't know how and why these people did that. Now another thing that I will say is that many years ago, well I won't say many, several years ago, The man that's in charge of this now, the coordinating architect at Del Mar College, who I guess is the one that hires these people to come and do this, it's a local air conditioning company. I have not checked to see if any of them are qualified in air quality studies, mold studies, or whatever licensed by the state of Texas to be doing this. If they are, then all I can say is it's a real sad day, that as relaxed and lax as they get. So I'm real concerned about that. But several years ago, I did a job for Fulton Construction Company, and they had a moldy gym ceiling over at their new gym over there at Gregory Portland High School. And I told the contractor that at the time, I went over and took the samples and looked at those, told him what the mold was, and said, the problem is the air conditioning system in that gym stinks. It shouldn't have been done like that, and you've got condensate forming on the ceiling in there because of a thermal inversion. You can't run the temperature down to 65 degrees in the gym and then 30 feet above that have air standing in cells in that ceiling. You're going to get condensation of water. Then you're going to get fungal growth up there, which is exactly what happened. Okay, and it was pretty severe. So I get the call from this architect, and he's raising Cain with me, telling me I don't know what I'm doing. That I know nothing about mold and how it grows and toxic molds, and that was after I'd probably sampled in Corpus Christi alone, tested about 400 and some odd structures for insurance companies and homeowners and so forth and so on, because of my expertise since 1968 in the finer arts of mold. Okay? Now, with my background and reputation, folks, this is the first place that I've ever found is Corpus Christi, Texas, that's ever questioned my ability to take a sample, tell the people exactly what it is, mostly to genus and species, identify the critter, tell people how to remediate the building, get rid of it, go back in and know how to sample it after it's been remediated, and make sure that the mold problem is gone. So this was a new one to me. So I told him it was the air conditioning, or he found out from the contractor that it was, and he jumped me and said that I didn't know anything about the mold business. So I said, well, how about a PhD in microbiology with a second major in biochemistry, which makes me a microbial biochemist, and I just happen to be recognized in this country as an expert in toxic molds and the toxins produced by those and what the effects are on various lab animals. And I published a lot of papers, peer-reviewed journal papers in toxicology, microbiology journals, and everything else under the sun before I decided to forego all of that fun and come to Del Mar College. And then I was called up because of my background and reputation. Then he said, well, I don't know about that. And I said, well, obviously, sir, I do know what I'm talking about, so why don't you quit shouting at me on the phone and being generally abusive. And then he jumped and said, well, you don't know anything about air conditioning. And I said, well, I beg to differ with you. I just happen to own half of an air conditioning company. And he said, what? And I said, that's right. It's S&S Mechanical at the time. Well, you've never replaced any commercial units. You've never set any commercial units. And I said, oh, yes, I have, sir. And then when he got mad and really hung up is when I said, if you ever need a lesson in the chemistry of water, I said, with my 3 degrees in chemistry, I'll be glad to sit down and tell you what kind of a problem you created because you didn't know what in the hell you were doing with the air conditioning system in that gymnasium. So then he got huffy-puffy and hung up. Well, apparently he's back in the groove over here with that problem at the Venters building. So I wanted to show you that and just go ahead and let you know that I do know what I'm talking about. And they keep saying, well, you're not licensed in the state of Texas. And I said, no, I'm not. So I'm going to tell the audience right now why not. When I was in full swing with the mold studies around here, folks, and I did that in addition to my full load at Del Mar College and overloads in teaching over there. And I was pretty exhausted individual. But I did it because of the family income, kids going to college, and also because I have a soft spot in my heart for people that are choking and sneezing and coughing and having severe respiratory problems due to mold. And I do care about my community. So when at the tail end of the heyday with the mold around here, then the state imposed a license, and not only one license for mold testing and so forth, but 5 or 6 of them. So they were going to require me to have a license that would allow me to go out and sample various structures and pieces of moldy sheetrock and so forth in the houses. And then you have to have another license if you want to sit down and determine what the organism is, which I had an awful lot of extensive background in, the identification of the critters. And then you had to have one to tell people how to get rid of the mold and then go back and retest it and remediation plans and all this. So I asked the man I was on the phone with out of Austin who took over the licensing of all that when the state set it up. And I said, sir, I said, what do I have to, how many hoops do I have to jump through? I said, I just happen to have a PhD in microbiology, and my primary one was in biochemistry, and I'm a microbial biochemist with a very highly regarded expertise in toxic molds and the chemicals that are produced by molds that are toxic and bacteria in addition to that. And he said, well, if you'll send your resume and stuff, we'll review that and see if that's the equivalent to a bachelor's degree in biology. Now, if a man is that crazy and that naive and stupid, I'll just say stupid, then I don't want anything to do with a state agency that's run at that level, folks. If you don't know the hierarchy of degrees and so forth, then, I didn't want any part of it. So I just said, well, okay. Now, I do, answer questions for people these days. I don't go test things for money or anything else. But I do have a pretty good idea of what I'm doing. So I hope you saw that clip of all that moldy stuff sitting around, and just think of that being snatched out of the ceilings and cut, stacked up like cordwood in the classrooms, hauled down the halls with all that stuff blowing everywhere, down the elevators and then out through the parking lot and dumped in a dumpster, and have it blown all over the place with the prevailing winds we have in Corpus Christi, Texas. I mean, it's incredible, folks. Okay, that's all I can say. It's truly incredible. Now, if that bothers you people, especially the ones that have children over there in that mess with the collegiate high school, then let me go ahead, and I'm just going to go ahead and give you a rundown on the members of the Del Mar College Board of Regents. Okay. And, I don't know why we're going to that great a length to clean that building up. I've been told through the grapevine that they want to clean it all up and then go in and have the air quality done, and before they have to hire an air quality expert to go over there and really have those rooms contained and bag all that stuff up and so forth. And, that just horrifies me. So if that type of thing bothers you as taxpayers to the Del Mar College district over here, then let's talk about the members of the Board of Regents who are ultimately responsible for the activities of the administration. Okay? Now we've got Mr. Trey McCampbell, who's the chair. He works for American Bank. He's an officer down there of some type. And he is the chair of the Board of Regents. So you can always contact him. Just call the switchboard at Del Mar and leave a message for him. You can go ahead and call the president's office, and his secretary is also, I think, the board secretary, and that's 698, I think it's 1203. You can get a hold of her, okay? And leave her a message. Say, I'd like to have Mr. McCampbell call me. Or he's got his email address and so forth, telephone numbers, fax numbers. If you go into the Del Mar College website and look up the Board of Regents members, you can get a color picture of these people and their email addresses and their biographies and that type of stuff, which is probably well worth you take advantage of the internet, folks, at that level. Then Elva Estrada is the first vice chair. She's District 3. Now, Mr. McCampbell's at large, and his term expires this year in 2016. So I think I'd do a little bit of soul searching and so forth and say, you know, how is Del Mar doing with all the problems that have been reported here recently? Plus now we've got this building that's a real mess. So, you know, let's just get real and get something done. But Mrs. Estrada is District 3. She's got her bio and email address there and telephone number. Susan Hutchison, second vice chair, she's District 2. I think she's up this year also in 2016. Mrs. Estrada is 2018. See, they're on a 6-year cycle when they're on the board, folks. But that's Susan Hutchison. And then we've got Dr. Nicholas Adami, secretary. He's at large, and he will be, term expires in 2020. He was just re-elected recently. And then we've got James B. Boggs. Mr. Boggs is District 5. His term expires this time on 2016. I don't think he's going to run again, as far as I can gather. But, you know, you may want to find somebody that is a District 5 person and see about running somebody over there that cares a little bit more about Del Mar College than most of these people seem to be or seem to do. Then we've got Sandra L. Messbarger at large. Her term expires in 2018. If you watch my show, What's Going On in Corpus Christi, then that's Janelle Bennett is the producer of that. I'm the main reporter, and that's mostly our Taxpayers Association outlet. My vice president of the Taxpayers Association, since I am the president, had a little run-in with Ms. Messbarger the other day about he was trying to get some answers about the accounting irregularities and the massive write-offs of bad debt that Del Mar College has been doing. And I guess she got a little bit salty with him, I'll just put it that way. That didn't impress him at all, and that makes the Taxpayer Association members a little bit upset. Okay. Gabriel Rivas III, District 1, his term expires 2018. And then we've got Carol A. Scott at large. She's just been elected on for 6 years until 2020. That's Mark Scott's wife. Mark Scott's the city council person, and I won't get into my true feelings about Carol A. Scott and, you know, the activities there and what happened at CCISD and so forth. And then we've got Guy Watts. He's a District 4, and his term expires in 2020. And Mr. Watts has been on that board for a long time and shows a great deal of reason at times. Okay. More so than the rest of these people. I think it's just all about ego, folks, because they really don't care much about what goes on and what happens to students and faculty members and custodians that were fired, and you know, it's a real shame over there that we can't get people on that board that will do something about that. Now, I mentioned Mrs. Messbarger and Jack Gordy kind of getting into a little bit of a verbal tussle there. So Mr. Gordy is going to go to the June 9th board meeting. It's held at 1 o'clock in the Harvin Center in the Isaacsy boardroom, named after a good friend of mine, former board member, Patty Isaacsy. And he's upset about the accounting department and their writing off of $2,838,327. Okay? Now this was debt supposedly owed to Del Mar College. And I won't go into a long litany of things. I want to talk about some other items, and I will on the Taxpayer Show. Just tell you that I uncovered the massive write-offs back in August of 2013, and I've been after them along with a very good friend of mine, a CPA, very accomplished, very highly degreed accountant. And we've uncovered all of this, $2,838,327 that Del Mar College has written off, and that's up through, I think, December of 2014. So I'm going to go and write another Public Information Act, which will probably be ignored by Del Mar College. They're masters at that. And ask for an update through tomorrow, which would be June the 1st. Okay? So we'll find out. But here's the letter that Mr. Gordy sent to the board members, and he's going to pass this out, make sure they've got their copy of it that was sent to their mailing addresses and so forth, and in their packets on the June the 9th meeting. And it says, Delmar Board of Regents. This is something that the Board of Regents needs to get involved in and start asking questions. The Delmar Accounting Department does not care about the taxpayers that live in the Delmar district. If they cared about the taxpayers, they would not write off debts that are owed to Delmar College. The accounting department has written off at least $2,838,327 of debt that was owed to Delmar. There was no effort made to collect the debts. Not even a letter was sent asking for payment. Okay? I and the taxpayers would like to know how this Board of Regents can allow this to happen and never question the write-offs. Okay? All you should know that is that this is not right and is not what you were elected to do. You were elected to represent the taxpayers and make sure that the Delmar College staff does the right thing. No one of you can say that you did not know about the write-offs because it's been on the news a couple of times. Okay? If you were not going to ask questions and find out why the accounting department wrote off these debts and order them to collect the money owed to Delmar College, it is time for all of you to resign and let someone that will do the right thing take over your positions. All of you should ask the Delmar president how he can justify those write-offs and not question them. Okay? So, thank you, Mr. Gordy. I do know that you know how to rattle a few cages at times. When you were president of the Taxpayers Association, and then before you it was Joe O'Brien, I learned an awful lot being a member of that organization, and I just hope I can fill Mr. Gordy's and Mr. O'Brien's shoes one day. Now, another thing that's happened, this is a state, I think they've lost their minds, and I don't know the reasoning behind this, except we do have a bunch of elected officials at the state level that are about as useful as City Council and the Delmar College Board of Regents members, and some others around here like the county commissioners and so forth. But there's been quite a stir raised, and this came out today in the paper. It says campus carry okayed. House vote set today after Senate passes. Okay, now what this is all about is this is the state in a passing of laws and so forth and so on, bills and so forth, will allow individuals to carry firearms on college and university campuses. Okay? Now, that really does concern me deeply. And, I'll just be totally honest with you. As a military brat, when the entire number of squadrons in a big fighter wing, aircraft wing, would take off to go out for 6 months to 13 months on the temporary duty abroad, the TDY, then at the ripe old age of 6 and 7 years old, when that would happen, being the oldest of the children in my family, then I was pretty adept with a Colt 45 automatic. And the reason for that is in our neighborhood there were a lot of the fighter pilots' families that lived in there, and we were charged with protecting one another. So yes, folks, I was an expert with a 45 many years ago. And the purpose was if someone tried to break into the house or cause trouble in my house or the neighbors' houses, then there were a number of us male offspring that would go into the protection mode. So, I know what that's all about. But to have these people carry firearms into classrooms and dormitories and so forth and so on, I think that is probably not the best idea in the world. I do know that some students get pretty irate with professors and with faculty, staff, and other people And that's all we need is to have, one of these wackos out there with armed and have a gun in the dorm room and carry it on their belt to classes and that type of thing. It's just very dangerous. And I've been told for a lot of years Del Mar College was upset because when my classes start, folks, I lock the door. Nobody enters that door until the next class starts. Okay? Now, I do, when the class is over, bid everyone a fond adieu. But a lot of that is not only to protect the people that are in my class from being disturbed by people walking in and out with telephones and chattering and all that good stuff, which is, I think, in very poor taste. It's not academics. That's more of a grade school proposition. That's what happens at CCISD, and nobody seems to want to straighten the kids out. But another factor is if there are shooters around, then they're going to play hell getting into that room. So when somebody starts banging on the door and waving a gun, then I can have it remain locked and then protect everybody as well as I can without carrying a weapon in the classroom. So, these shooters are looking for an open classroom, go in and shoot it up. So if I've got the door closed, then that cuts down the probability that I'm going to have that problem in my classroom. So that's another reason I do it, okay? So, but I'll keep you abreast of what this is, and there's quite the chattering going on the Del Mar College email site, the website right now, and so forth. There's some pretty rattled faculty members and other people. So this one's not over. We'll see how it fares out at the legislature. But call your legislators and tell them that's not a real good idea. Excuse me. All right, so let me take a sip of water and try to digest this one. Okay, this isn't NBC or ABC News, so I'm a little bit more casual than most. Now, Del Mar College, as far as I'm concerned, is in dire straits when it comes to their educational process. We've got falling enrollment, we've got falling full-time student numbers, we've got financial problems, obviously, and so forth and so on. A great high number of accounting irregularities. But Del Mar College is not alone. Now, I've been involved with keeping an eye on the Coastal Bend College, which is now the used to be B County, and so forth and so on. But Coastal Bend College has got some administrators up there and some board members that I've watched, and there's a great similarity between the lunacy that goes on at CBC and the lunacy that goes on at Del Mar College. Okay? Now, one thing that I have been really trying to bring attention to is the gross nepotism involved with the president of Coastal Bend College hiring her sister as a dean, and then the dean hires her daughter as a secretary, and then we've got all kinds of nepotism going on within that family. And it's one of those good old boy things which should not happen. And that has led to some gross lies told about a very good friend of mine, Dr. Eloisa Garcia, who was the director of nursing up there, and then they fired her under what I consider totally bogus and false pretenses, because I think Dr. Garcia may not have had a real good relationship with the president's sister. Okay? And it's a tragedy. Now, in addition to that, I don't know what type of drugs they're taking up there at Coastal Bend College, but what happened was the trustees decided that they would go and try to shut down the aviation program there. They've got certificate programs through the Federal Aviation Administration, which allow students to train and become certified in airframe mechanics and so forth, and also the power plant, that's the engines and so forth that they build. So they are fully qualified to go out and inspect aircraft and to repair them, rebuild the power plants, they call them, either jet engines or the gasoline recip engines and so forth. And why they wanted to turn it down, I don't know. They said it's a matter of economics. Now, over several months now, the Board of Regents has been trying to get the truth out of the administration about the financial end of this. Now, I did not know, and I know we've got some programs at Del Mar College which take up an awful lot of money per student, and I didn't know that as a taxpayer to the Del Mar College district that I was over there trying to make a profit with students going to class. I thought that the reason that I was billed through the nose, taxed through the nose, was to provide students with the ability to obtain an education. And I do that too, but when I pay the state and federal taxes, okay, there's a certain amount of state tax that we're subjected to, not income tax, but just taxes in general, that go into the educational funds. And that's my money, folks. Okay? That's your money. So what Beeville was trying to do is justify and say, well, you know, we're not making a profit with that program. Well, I don't know of many programs that you make a profit with, and I didn't think that the purpose of community colleges in this state was to make a profit. Okay? Otherwise, if they were over there making a profit, why in the world am I spending so much tax money and paying so many taxes every year based on the value of my home within this community? Okay? Can you tell me why? All right, so I've got a hang up with that. Two of the board members were very, very interested in the numbers, and you know, they have these factors, they call them. And I sat through several of those board meetings where the vice president and so forth were trying to justify closing this down, along with President Beatrice Espinoza. Okay? And she's just hell-bent on shutting it down, and they finally accomplished that, much to the dismay of two of the brightest of the board members up there, the trustees. So the last time I went up there was on, I think it was May the 20th, that was a Wednesday evening, and I was not in classes yet again, and I saw one of the worst horror shows that I've ever seen in my life. And it was voted, I think it was 5-2. I think there were two trustees that were missing, and against, or it was 5-2 in favor of shutting the program down, which made Dr. Espinosa really beam, and she was walking around, you know, strutting her feathers like a male peacock, and it was just despicable. And then after that, a lot of those aviation students had their say and talked to the Beeville B-Picayune reporter, Mr. Clough, up there, and it's been wild and woolly. So I don't know what they're going to do with those students. Now, what they wanted to do was accelerate them, make them go to class 8 hours a day, 5 days a week to finish up whatever they had hanging. Now, these people, folks, work around their classes during a regular semester. They've got families, most of them. They work. Their spouses work to get them through this program, and then unceremoniously, bam, that program no longer exists as of the end of August, the summer term this year. And the headline on May 22nd was when the Friday when the paper came up after they had shut that down at Coastal Bend College. It says, "Last days Mayday." Okay, college aviation program shut down. Now, folks, that's about as despicable as you can get. And if the citizens of Beeville, B County up there, do insist that there is a profit that should be made to keep those educational doors open, then I think you need to go and start complaining. And I'd start with the state representatives and senators and so forth, and just start jumping up and down, raising Cain about it. That would be the easiest way to handle it. Okay. Now, I've had some problems here recently with Del Mar that I would like to go ahead and impart to you. Let me go ahead and talk about this. Now, we've been told at Del Mar College and the taxpayers around here of the district that we need a new campus out at Rodfield Road and Yorktown. They purchased, they meaning Del Mar College, with the blessings of the Board of Regents, dictated that, bought 95 acres out there for a lot of money. And now it's just sitting there, overgrown. It's got toilet paper in the bushes and beer cans everywhere and paper bags floating around. You know, it's mostly flooded these days because it's got a big ditch running behind the back of the property. But we've been told that the reason for that is the Eagle Ford Shale has swollen the ranks of the population around here, the residents and so forth, and we need that because the town is building and going like mad out south of town. And that's the reason is because we've got all of this prosperity now with Eagle Ford Shale. Now that's slowed down a lot, folks. It's not near the boondoggle it was there for a little bit, you know, or the financial boom, not a boondoggle, because of the oil price dropping, okay? And then here's another one that goes to the purpose of how well things are going around here with the oil boom. It says Gulf Marine to lay off 554 in Aransas Pass. Firm plans to finish cuts by June 22nd. And this is predominantly the result of the oil prices being cut in half since they opened that field up, okay? Because Gulf Marine, I guess, builds a lot of oil production rigs and so forth and so on, and since oil's gone down, it's not profitable to sink more billions of dollars in those offshore rigs and so forth. So, what can I say? But if you do call your regent, why don't you ask them about that next bond election they're going to try to come up with to fund about $100 million worth of campus at Rodfield and Yorktown. It's insanity, folks, total insanity. And I'm surprised that the people who in Corpus Christi haven't been here long enough to know that the money comes in like mad and then it goes away just as fast, just like the tides do out here. Okay? Now, I'm going to wind up. I've got about 18 minutes left. And I want to discuss something that happened to me, and this is not just me. This is the Del Mar College administration, in my mind. These are my thoughts, trying to get rid of the senior faculty members over there, particularly those of us that can stand up to them and point out their screw-ups over there and all these off-the-wall projects and so forth that they come up with. And I guess I've probably been, over the 25 years I've been at Del Mar, probably one of the most vocal ones around. And I do know, Sunshine, that I do make some people uncomfortable and fearful, but I do try to help the students and the taxpayers in general. So, you know, you can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself. That was a Ricky Nelson song years ago. It's called Garden Party. All right, now, if you want to listen to it. Now, what happened to me was we have certain administrators, okay, like my dean, who are enamored with certain faculty members, and they protect those faculty members and allow them to conduct certain exercises and so forth and so on that the rest of the faculty members aren't entitled to do. Okay? So this favoritism has been running rampant over there since she was the now Dean of Arts and Sciences, was the department chair in the biology, the natural sciences department. Okay? Now, I have a chair of my department that for whatever reason he is not going to conduct business there in an equitable and fair manner. This is my personal opinion, okay? Because he does not want to get on the bad side of the dean and take the, I'm going to call him the anointed one over there, okay, the privileged one, and straighten out some of the annex. So I was vocal enough about it. Now, I don't know how my chair got this upset with me. I've always tried to do everything I can to help him and the department, and he, out of one side of his mouth, I'm the best thing since sliced bread over there, and then on the other hand, I'm a scoundrel. So what he came up with was he concocted these stories about how I will not converse with him one-on-one, and that any communication between the two of us needs to be done in writing, either email or in letter form. And I just got tired of him running around preaching daily that the privileged one would not cooperate with him. He would not consult with him on any matters. He'd just go straight to the dean or the vice president over there and just usurp the authority of this department chair. Okay. Now, I got tired of listening to all that, and the man not doing anything about it and standing up to the dean in order to get some certain things that really have the biology faculty members over there very upset, okay, about the privilege that some are extended and others are not. So I did tell him I want all communications either in writing, email, or in letter form, or if he wants to converse with me, it's going to be in front of a witness, because I can't trust what he says. It's just that simple, okay? So then all of a sudden, I was on a committee that I was not the chairman of. I was just a member. 3 of the 5 committee members were very ill, like in the hospital and off from work at Del Mar for a while. And then I guess because he got upset I didn't want to talk to him, then he accused me of not keeping him updated and by email of what that committee was up to. Now, I think the easiest thing for the man to have done would be to contact all of the members of that committee, particularly the physicist that's in charge of that thing, of the physics program review committee, and ask him what's going on. Because before I quit talking to the man, and I made it quite clear, I talked to him if there's a witness present. I don't have any problem with that, but I'm not going to go in and have a private conversation with the man and then have a lot of this concocted untruths told about me. Okay? So what I did was, before I ceased the communication with him directly, he would email me and ask me what the status of that program review was, and I'd go into his office, which was about a foot away from my door. Okay, our offices adjoin, and our doors are about 6 or 8 inches apart. Then I would tell him what was going on. Well, in the 3-part accusations made against me, then he says that I would not communicate with him, answer his emails, and that it was up to me, essentially, to keep him abreast of what was going on with that committee, as if he didn't have a telephone and an email system and ask the other people what was going on. Because I told him, and I also explained that to the dean when she asked me about it one time. And now, all of a sudden, I don't communicate, okay? Find that hard to believe. I'm not in charge of that committee, folks. And if a department chair can't go to all the committee members and figure out what's going on, then I'm sorry. And that physicist was very hard for me to get a hold of and communicate, and I gave him all the information that he needed to finish that report up. And whether he decided to do it or not is, that's not my problem. That's between the department chair, the dean, and that faculty member in charge of the committee. But I was blamed for it. Then, without any consultation with me, I've been doing all except one class, two when I did take off for a summer. But I've done all the micro classes over there and overloads and saved that department tens of thousands of dollars a year in my activities over there. And doing adjunct classes, 2 or 3 of them a semester, at 1/3 of my normal pay. And it's not 1/3 of the work, folks, it's 1/3 of the compensation. So I've been trying to do that to support students and make sure that you people out there have some real fine allied health people, nurses, physicians, dentists, surge techs, respiratory technicians, and so forth. And that's how much I'm appreciated. Okay? Now, when this majors micro class was run out of sequence, we've got just enough room every year to run that class one time a year in the fall and get the students through that need it. Okay? Now, the privileged one was provided with a section of that because he preaches that those of us that teach traditional classes are mediocre and substandard. I've got that in writing at the national level if anybody wants to see it. Okay? And I was not told about this. I do have prerequisites for my class, which is chemistry. As a person degreed at 3 levels in microbiology and also in chemistry, biochemistry, I know what I'm talking about. And I've had an extensive research career in the finer arts of pharmaceutical research. I've hired physicians. I've prepped physicians. I've been around medical schools. I was asked at times to take over a class or two by the medical school professors. So I know my way around the medical end of it, folks, and I know what's needed by these nursing students and medical students, vet students, pharmacy students, and so forth and so on, and biology graduate students. So when I'm told after the fact by a third party that class had been run out of sequence, and the ads are around saying that they're going to run these research projects on fungi from Apollo 11 missions and so forth, and that I still don't know what I'm doing as far as a researcher and or a professor, then I get a little bit concerned. And then in order to make the class, the maximum number is 24 students. In order to make the 12 that's needed to run the class, then the prerequisites for the students to take that class were dropped, and they wound up with 14 students, and I think they spent that many thousands of dollars equipping that laboratory. Then they hire people to do the labs for the professor, and he's got students in there teaching part-time and so forth, but you can get away with that if you're the privileged one. Okay? So I had a few words to say when they were trying to take some of my equipment that I have in my stock room and run it down for that man to go down there and, quote, utilize. Now, to my knowledge, I don't think he's ever run that piece of equipment in his life. It's not the most difficult. I started running similar equipment in 1968 when I went to graduate school. And I know what I'm doing with it, and I know the capabilities, and it has not been used because I don't have the proper facilities to sterilize that big fermenter pod. Okay? So I did get a little testy, and I'll say it on the air, when I was asked if may we come down and remove that and take it down to this off-sequence class by the privileged one. I said that the privileged one and my department chair who made the request could go straight to hell. And that triggered it, folks. Okay. Then I get this disciplinary action letter they want to stick in my file. That to just, I guess, kind of badger me a little bit. Well, folks, I don't get upset with that kind of garbage. To tell you the truth, I get upset because it's a setup. Okay, I'm being set up, and they would love to terminate me over there. And along with Dr. Bruce Olson was locked out. Dr. Janelle Bennett, PhD nurse, she was terminated for some trumped up charges over there, and that termination hearing of hers was a disaster, and it just showed how poor some people can be and how despicable they can be when then they stand there and lie about the facts of the whole thing. Now, what I did was I wanted to, through my right under Texas Public Information Acts, I asked for information that I needed in order to defend myself, and I did appeal that disciplinary action and was granted a hearing. And then I was forced to get the hearing done before the information was provided me that I needed to go ahead and defend myself. And I still have not got that information. Now, when I went to that hearing, the Open Meetings Act states very clearly, because I asked for an open hearing, open meeting, which was conducted by the college. The man that was in charge of that was one that used to go around telling me and telling other people that I'm trying to destroy Del Mar College because I won't support bonds to build a Southside campus, and made some very derogatory statements in public about me over the years. And that's the person. He's non-academic. He's the chief informational officer over there. In other words, he runs all the email systems and all that good stuff, the website and so forth, and computer classes. So anyway, he went over there. He wasn't about to find in my favor. And I thought that was a little bit cheesy, I'll just use that term, but not unusual for Del Mar College. And he was appointed by the president, who I am not his favorite person any longer. So what has transpired was I had two people walk into that hearing with video cameras, and they were told at the very beginning of that they could not videotape that. Our public relations person had a police officer there that was hired especially to keep an eye on that meeting in case, I guess, I went berserk in there and did something. That's not my style, folks. Okay? But the insecurity of the people over there. And then she instructed the police officer to tell the two gentlemen with video cameras to take them off their tripods, and they couldn't use them. Now, that flies right into the face of the fact that in the Open Records Code, Government Code, Title V, Open Government Ethics, Subtitle Open Government, Open Meetings is Chapter 551. It states very clearly in there on page 9 of 46, if you want to print it out, it says that people can go in there and they're free as public people in a public meeting run by taxpayer entity like Del Mar College. Then they are quite welcome and can go ahead and film that thing, audio or video recorded. It says recording of meeting by person in attendance. Okay, I've got just about enough time to finish this one. A person in attendance may record all or any part of an open meeting of a government body by means of a recorder, video camera, or other means for oral or visual reproduction. A governmental body may adopt reasonable rules to maintain order at a meeting, including rules related to the location of recording equipment and the manner in which the recording is conducted, which is a silent run video camera. Okay? A rule adopted under subsection B may not prevent or unreasonably impair a person from exercising a right guaranteed under section A, which was you can and do have the rights. Then also wiretapping. Those will allow you to do that. Now at the end of this hearing, it was a 2-hour hearing without a break. Then the college attorney, one Miss Cynthia Cano, all right, started asking me why I wanted certain items when I ordered those and requested those through Public Information Act request. Now it just so happens that if you look up the chapter 552 Government Code, Texas Public Information Act, then it states quite clearly that a requester cannot be asked by any person involved with the government entity why they want that information. So I have I've asked for a recording of that meeting. The college did audio tape it. I haven't been able to get it in a timely manner. I guess I'll have to go to the AG's office. But all I can tell you folks is, thou shalt not ask a requester. It's against the law. So I'm going to have a field day when that little item comes up with the county judge and the Texas State Attorney General. Okay? So maybe that's why I do make people uncomfortable and fearful. I don't know. But all I can say is maybe one day you'll let me know, sunshine. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get this thing finished up, and hope you've had a good lesson in this. I'm sorry about harping on my trials and tribulations, which are really not a letter in my personnel file doesn't frighten me whatsoever. Okay, but I'm not going to be lied to, cheated with, and people conduct illegal acts in the process. I'll be right back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the show. This is the May the 31st on a Sunday. South Texas News and Reviews. I'm just going to go ahead and let this play out. Please pay attention to the email address, and you can watch this on YouTube. Just go into YouTube, put in Gerald Sansing, and you've got it right there in front of you. So y'all have a good evening. Be back next week.